Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into college aviation. My guest today is Tom Finnis. He is the Director of Recruitment for Western Michigan University College of Aviation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I'm glad to be here. I look forward to sharing some insights with you.
Great. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Well, I actually am a product of Western Michigan University. I graduated back in the dark ages, if you will. I graduated high school in 1985, and I attended Western from 1985 to 1990. I got a degree in secondary education with a concentration in history and group social science. I then, several years later, I went into Michigan State University where I got a master's of arts in curriculum and in teaching.
Wow, fantastic. So let's just go back in time before we get started on what you're doing today. In high school, when did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all start for you?
So it's fairly early on. Obviously, when I started high school back in 1981, and I mean, it was a college prep program, taking classes that were getting me ready to be successful in college, the typical math courses and the science courses and the English courses, being able to write and things like that. But I think I was also fortunate enough that during my high school time, my parents also allowed me to kind of spread my wings, which excuse the aviation pun, but I might use a few in here. But they did also allow me to spread my wings a little bit, and I took an automotive course. I took an electronics course just to kind of sample the waters. Meanwhile, coupled that with the courses that I was taking, getting prepped and ready to get ready for college, if that's what I chose to do, which is I ended up doing. I'd spent that time, doing well academically. I think some of the challenges that we see in today's world is some students, especially in competitive programs, don't think that ninth or 10th grade matters, and it does. And I mean, you gotta, not that you have to know exactly what you're doing. I mean, you Anthony, you probably say the joke as well as I do. I'm 57 years old. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing in life. But doing well in all aspects, regardless of whether you know what you wanted to do, is very, very important. And I had that message fairly early on from teachers, from counselors, from my parents, making sure that the message was loud and clear to me that you do well academically so that you don't prevent yourself from any opportunities later on in life.
Right. So now you go from that into going to Western Michigan University. Can you tell us a little bit about Western Michigan University while you were there?
Yeah, and it's changed a lot in the let's see, I graduated in 1998, 35 years ago. But what always drew me to Western Michigan University was it's a public university, is a state university, public university with a lot of different degree options. Because even though I was prepping for college when I was coming in high school, when I got to college, I still didn't quite really know where I fit in the world. I started college when I was 17 years old. And so I came in as an undecided student, trying to figure out what that was that I wanted to do. And Western was a natural attraction. Even back then, they offered a lot of different degree options. I mean, in today's world, we offer 150 undergraduate degree options. So that student coming in with that is undecided, we put them in our university curriculum and part of our Mersey Take college, and the goal is by their second year to figure out what it is that they want and to solidify that passion. And that's kind of the same way that when I came in here in 1985, that's where I was. I was undecided, but by my sophomore year, I had narrowed it down into history and education and things like that. So I love the fact that it was a fairly large institution. We're still fairly large with about 18,000 students, with all the amenities that you could look at when you're going to college. We had obviously the Division I sports, and we had the libraries, we had the residence halls. In today's world, our university is kind of going through a renaissance, if you will. I mean, we've built new dining halls, we've built new student centers, we've built new residence halls. So, that's to me, I look at where I was when I was here 30 years ago and where it is now. It's a kind of a completely different environment. And I think it's a great environment now. I look at the evolution of this campus, and I'm flabbergasted and just a teeny bit jealous that I didn't have these amenities when I was a student here. But
So now, how does one go from graduating Western Michigan University to the director of recruitment for Western Michigan University College of Aviation?
well, do we got like 45 minutes here? No, I'll keep it short and simple, So, I've always loved, I believe in the value of education. That's why I got a degree in education. You know, when I graduated college, I actually kind of pivoted slightly and I went into a business world. But it also allowed me to utilize my strengths and my skills that I had obtained in from our College of Education here at Western Michigan University. And I went and spent about 10 years in the scuba diving world where I taught scuba diving, but I was also introduced to the wonderful world of marketing, sales, recruitment, and all of those things because you just don't open your doors and you just don't work for a scuba place and people come in. You got to go out and search for them. You got to go out and hunt for them. So I did that for about 10 years. I then I went back to school, got my master's in my early 30s, back in curriculum teaching. I went down, I lived in Florida for 5 years where I was a fourth grade teacher. I was a sixth grade teacher. The last 2 years, I was actually a coordinating teacher, which was a big fancy word for I recruited in marketing for a magnet school down in Brevard Public Schools down in Brevard County, Florida. And then in 2009, I moved back to Michigan. I'm one of the weird ones that I actually missed the seasons. I love the snow, and my home state called me back. And I came in here and I found my job at Western Michigan University in their College of Aviation, working their recruiting and marketing and outreach department. And so my pathway, if you will, I always kind of think about this as far as, I built uh, an a career. My career was basically built around the tree trunk of education. Everything
Mhm.
I've done has sprung off that. So even though when I worked in the scuba diving world, I was working in an educational environment, teaching people. When I was teaching school, obviously teaching people. And now I'm just in a higher education environment. I'm still engaging and involve people in the education of them. Now I just get to help to attract them into the world of aviation to pursue the educational part of aviation. So I've always kind of viewed education as my tree trunk, and I've sprung off and through the 35 years of employment, I've truly not only do I love education, but I love the fact that I get to engage with people through recruiting and marketing and that's the kind of the growth, the lifelong educational opportunities, the continuous improvement model is that I loved education, but part of me is I've come to the realization that it is that business side that also and this recruitment, marketing, outreach job that I do at the College of Aviation at Western Michigan University is a hybrid. It allows me to kind of unite all the passions that I love. And I think when you're starting to looking at career paths and things like that, what can you do to kind of spring off? That's the value of education because no matter what we get taken away from us in life, nobody can ever take away what you've learned. And for me, it was that I look at getting a degree in history. Well, getting a degree in history really allowed me the opportunity to become prolific at writing and better at writing, which I now use in every aspect that I do, whether it's communicating with parents, communicating with students, helping to build marketing plans, things like that. So I kept it short for you, Anthony. Just
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, the more information, the better. That's what the show is about. So the College of Aviation, could you go into what exactly a student is going into when they get there? and go into the College of Aviation?
So at Western Michigan University, we offer three different degrees in aviation. We offer our aviation flight science program, which is our professional pilot training program. We offer our aviation management and operations degree, which is the business operations and logistics side. And then we offer an aviation technical operations, and that's for people that want to build, fix, maintain, or repair aircraft. The biggest demand in the program is our flight program. Tom Cruise keeps making pilot movies. Everybody wants to be a pilot, but the interesting statistics in aviation, only about 10% of the job market is actually piloting. About 25% of it is in the technical operations, people that are repairing aircraft, fixing them and maintaining them. And then the remainder, about two-thirds of the jobs are in the business operations and logistics. We just don't know about those jobs because they're all behind the scenes. They're kind of like the behind the curtains and the closed doors.
Mhm.
Um, and so we offer those three different degrees, obviously in a public institution where students also have the opportunity and the ability to diversify themselves. If they want to get a flight science degree and get a minor in economics, they can do that. If they want to get an aviation management operations and a general business minor, they can do that. Western's built itself into one of the larger aviation programs in the country. We actually have about 1,100 students. There's about 18,000 students at the university. About 1,100 of them are studying aviation at Western Michigan University. We're one of the older aviation programs out there as well. We're currently celebrating 85 years of aviation education at the institution.
So now, when a student comes in, give me a sense of what it's like. What do they do? What's the first step that they do when they get to College of Aviation at Western Michigan University?
So the most important part is the prepping of it. I often say that, kind of like unlike me that came to college undecided, people that are pursuing aviation, usually that seed has been planted somewhere earlier in their life. So the most important part is in those high school age years, doing well academically. Our flight program is very, very competitive, much like just about every aviation program that is out there. And so having a strong academic and having a very extensive extracurricular portfolio is very, very beneficial. Also doing their due diligence. Pursuing aviation does require students to do things a little bit different. Nothing against my friends in accounting or engineering, but you come in, you take an accounting class, you pursue an accounting degree, it's pretty laid out. Aviation, we have to deal with regulations, we have to deal with the FAA. And so as a result, it's kind of one of those career paths that you don't want to necessarily jump into willy-nilly. So one thing that we do at Western Michigan University that has been very, very successful for our students that are interested in aviation is we offer them an opportunity to engage with us prior to that college search. We do virtual presentations, much like you and I spending time here. We engage with families three times a day where we're generating and creating, or not generating, but we're giving them information about our program. I'll throw out an old term out there. You and I will get the reference. All the young kids won't. But we give them the Clint Eastwood version of aviation. We give them the good, the bad, and the ugly because there's a lot of great things in aviation. There's good things in aviation, but there's also challenges, costs. Again, the FAA, medical requirements, all of those things. So doing some of that prior to getting into the institution and making sure that the place that you're looking at is the right fit. I'm 100% biased. I think we got a great aviation program, but at the end of the day, a student wants to make sure that they've investigated a few of them to make sure that the one that they're going to is the right fit because they're going to encounter turbulence through their time pursuing aviation. Again, that aviation pun. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. And when they hit those lows, they want to make sure that the place that they're at is the right fit because it makes it a lot easier to stay. Once they get here, then it kind of varies per person. Obviously, we start taking aviation classes right away. If they're in the technical operations program, we immerse them right away into all to the maintenance courses. They'll spend their first 2 years doing nothing but turning wrenches and tearing apart engines, putting them back together, getting an understanding of non-destructive testing, uh, uh, understanding composites and sheet metal and all of those things. And so literally in 2 years, they get all of the required courses that they need in order to go out and if they wanted to, in 2 years, go out and get employed as an FAA airframe and power plant certified technician in the maintenance world, or they can stick around and stay for another year and a half, 2 years, and get their bachelor's. In management operations, they're going to be immersed in aviation courses right away, but they're also going to be taking business courses and things like that. Ultimately, and getting prepped to do internships and shadowing and mentorships and things like that. And then flight is kind of the odd duck. It depends upon if a student is ready, slot, if we have availability. But the goal is to get students flying almost from the day that they walk in into the campus. And so for some students, that might be starting flying right as their freshman year, their fall semester, their freshman year. It might, for other students, it might be waiting until spring or the summer to start flying at their time at Western. So but if they're not flying, they're taking aviation classes. They're getting involved in student organizations. They're building that network and that mentorship opportunities that are out there. And because in aviation, even though it's a global industry, it is a fairly small industry as far as, and people know everybody. And so getting involved, networking, mentorship is vitally important for all three aspects and all three different career paths in aviation.
So you went into cost. That's a big thing for students these days is the cost of school. What is it to get into Western Michigan University and to do aviation? Is it a pretty high cost? Being that is it also include the training in the flight and going out in the air?
So yeah, when you start looking, especially in the flying end of things, you have to add in the flight lab fees, and those are pretty standard no matter where you go. As far as even if you go to a local flight school, if you go to another college or university, there's always going to be these flight labs. If a student is in flight, I often tell the families and the student, you have to think about three areas of cost. You got to think about tuition, that's the cost of the degree. You got to think about room and board. You got to live and eat somewhere. And I tell students, even that when they come to us and they live in the local area, I'm like, whether you know it or not, you're costing your parents money because you eat them out of house and home and you cost them money. So, from the financial aid world, we want students to be thinking about the fact that they've got to live and eat, even if they're living off campus or on campus. And then for the flying, there are the flight lab fees. And those can range anywhere from 70 on up to, $90,000. And there's a bunch of, and that's on top of tuition and room and board. So in general terminology, if you look at degree, room and board, and flight lab fees, a student can expect to invest about 200 to 225 on up into their degree to become a professional pilot. Now, that's a big number, but the return on investment is pretty significant in aviation in the piloting world. In the management operations and the technical operations, they're not leveraged with the flight lab fees. Management operations, pretty much just the cost of the degree. You're coming in, you're taking classes. You may have a lab fee every now and then. Might be $100, might be $250, something like that, but it's not $80,000. And then technical operations, you come in, you'll have the tuition, and you'll by the time you finish up all of the labs that are associated with the airframe and power plant certification, you can expect to have anywhere from about $3,000 to $4,000 on additional lab fees. But that's what you're looking at. One of the benefits of coming to a place like Western and what attracted me even all the way back 35 years ago was the fact as a public institution, we have very competitively priced out, tuition, whether that's in-state or out-of-state. Currently as we look at fall of for the academic year 2024-2025, in-state at Western Michigan University is about 16 grand a year, out-of-state's about 19. You multiply that by 4 years, that'll give you roughly the cost of the degree. Then tuition, room and board. Generally, students can anticipate to budget about 10 to 12 grand a year. Again, multiply that by 4 years, and that'll share with you kind of what it would cost to live and eat while you're a student. And that's pretty common to where you're at. And then you have to look at, difference between public institutions, private institutions. Private institutions, typically the tuition's a little bit more. And so you want to start weighing all those things out. What am I getting over here at a public? What am I getting at a private? Same thing with flight lab fees. You want to start looking at, because we're all pretty close to each other. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more. And as a student, this is why you kind of want to start doing that investigation a little bit sooner. What am I flying? What's the benefit? It's that features and benefit of thing. So it costs this much to go to program X. this is what I'm going to get out of it.
Interesting. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are watching this? What advice do you want to give them?
So I think the biggest advice is to take advantage and learn as much as you can as early as you can. We have summer camps here, and most of your university aviation programs offer aviation summer camps. And so, especially for the parents, if you have a daughter or a son that has expressed a little bit of interest in aviation, explore those interests. Start cultivating them. Have them do an intro flight. No matter where you are in the country, you can go to your local airport. There's usually what we call fixed-based operators there that have flight schools in there. And for 150, 250 bucks, you can put your daughter or son up in an aircraft and they can get a little bit of experience of what it's like to actually fly an airplane. Pilots make this stuff look easy. They're walking in the airport, they got their hat on, they got their little wheel bags. They're like, hey, how's it going? And it's a tough world to become a professional pilot. It's a tough world to pursue becoming a qualified maintenance repair person. So it's not something you want to just go in willy-nilly. Explore some of these opportunities. Go to these camps. We have ninth graders and 10th graders that will do our virtual presentations with us to inquire, to start investigating what it's all takes to become a professional pilot or to pursue aviation management or to get a job as a certified airframe and power plant technician. So, investigate, and then if you like what you hear from these places, visit them. Again, even as a 10th or 11th grader, it's not too soon to start making some of those visits to make sure it's the right fit and the right place for you.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
And my pleasure. And Anthony, I thank you so much for reaching out and allowing me the opportunity to share some of Tom's words of wisdom. Whether or not they're words of wisdom or not, take it with a grain of salt.
All right. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.